Welcome to my channel. My name is Maddox. I'm going to teach you some of George Benson's secret weapon licks from his solo on the Ghetto. What I mean by secret weapon licks are these are phrases, pieces of vocabulary that Benson has in his pocket. These are phrases that he uses time and time again and that you can use as well for great effect and make them your own. And the categories that we're going to go through, we're going to look at some of the blues ideas that Benson has. We're going to look at some of the pentatonic type of ideas that Benson uses, and then also a couple arpeggio ideas, and finally some of the more advanced bebop chromaticisms that he does. Again, I'll show you how to apply all of this to your own playing, how Benson is applying these across various solos as well. So dive in and we'll get to it. If you want the PDF, you can get it for free by downloading, not downloading anything, just join the mailing list. If you just join the mailing list, I'll give you the PDF. All right, the first idea, and this is, again, we're doing all of this. The song's very simple. It's just A flat minor, D flat 7, D flat 9. So that's the backing track I'll use. This first blues lick sounds like this. So this is pretty much around the shape of A flat minor pentatonic. That's within, this idea is within that framework, right? And these blues ideas will really make use of that D natural note. So what we see here is, and it's kind of important how we play this. You have a couple of different options, right? So we start off, you can use your pinky or your third finger. We skip the second string here, and you're going to pull that third finger in. Here I would just use the third finger. So pull that in with that little slide, ending on the A flat, right? So 1. So a couple things. You want to make sure you're starting this on that upbeat, 1. And then the second thing is make sure this slide part is, make sure that part comes out clear, all leading towards this last note. The accent here is very important. Make sure you're paying attention to that. So you can also sequence this lick. Benson sequences this. He gives some space. Then he starts to line them all up into each other. So you can do that as well. This second lick is probably my favorite one that Benson does on the blues category here. And it's this lick. This is the second blues lick. I mean, that's just such a nice little lick. A key point here is that he's not sliding up to this A flat. So he does this slide with the third finger, but immediately brings his hand back to play A flat here. So we got to pay attention to those little details. And the way you would do that, make sure your thumb is anchored, so you can really shift your hand forward and back. So slide up to this E flat, A flat, and then slide up to D. That last part is very similar to what we just did, right? Then he has this nice little ending to it. Little idea that he repeats. So, right, you can slide into that last one. For the next two blues ideas, we're looking at some double stops. These are really common Benson double stops that he does. So this one, we're actually in the position of A flat minor pentatonic down. So this kind of area. And so he does this double stop, really common blues double stop. It's a little hard to notate, so you have, we play that, we're gonna hammer on, pull off. Do it with your pinky, so you have your ring finger available. And then he does this little bend thing, which is cool. If you just get that first part, that's really the important part. You can end on different notes here. But get that double stop. And then the fourth blues idea, we see that same double stop, but now on a different string set, so we'll play it a little differently, and this is within a context of a different lick. Sounds like this. So this time Benson is doing that slide, but he stays in this higher position. Instead of going back to this A flat like we did in the first lick, he hits that A flat with the pinky, allowing us to do that same double stop, but now instead of like a 2 finger, 2 frets away, we have a 3 fret span. Still play it the same way, index and pinky, but just like that. So it's the same piece of vocab inside of other ideas he's connecting. That's going to be the theme of all of what we're doing. Now let's move on to what I wouldn't necessarily consider blues ideas, but they're based around some sort of pentatonic thing. And we see some different concepts mixed in here. It's not just straight A flat minor pentatonic type of idea, although he does do that as well throughout. It's just that kind of vocabulary. It's not as easy to apply and learn from as the ones we're going to discuss. So the first pentatonic idea I want to talk about is this one where he's playing over D flat 7 part, but it works for both. And it's very similar to this concept that I came up with relating to really from seeing guys like Benson do this kind of thing, where they would basically play the pentatonic, but they would add in one other note. So I call this the pentatonic-plus-one concept. I talk about it within some of my curriculum in Chase Guitar Academy. If you guys want me to do a lesson on that, let me know in the comments. But it's this idea that we take the pentatonic scale and we're just going to add one more note. So in this case, adding in that ninth is a really good option for that. And so we see that in this melody. It's a really nice way to create some melodies where the pentatonic by itself can be a little bit limiting. So as you can see, we're basically in that shape, but then we add in the B flat there. Benson does this a few times throughout this solo. We'll look at other examples later. Okay, so now we get to a couple of really, really fun pentatonic ideas that are great for playing fast. And so these ones you definitely want in your pocket. These are some of the secret weapon licks I'm talking about. This first one, you've heard it on this solo a bunch and a bunch of Benson things. It's one of his qualities. And it's where he does this fast triplet and moves down, like really low on the fretboard. Okay, so what is going on here? How do we get that kind of bounce? So we have this triplet, and I would do down, up, down, up, and slide. Right? You want to play the B natural down here, not where most people would play it, here. And this allows Benson to shift lower, faster than most people would, and we get to keep the same shape, the same distance between our fingers, 2 frets the whole time, which also allows us to speed it up. It's all those little tricks that Benson has figured out. Tricks, I'm saying in a kind of negative connotation, but I mean it positively. All of those refinements that Benson's done that really allow him to surpass other guitarists. So the way I would think about this lick, by the way, is you're starting on the root of whatever your pentatonic is. And then we do that pattern, right? So if we wanted to do this for G minor, we would start on G. If we want to do this for D minor, right? And you can even try different string sets. Right? So all of that is fair game. And the third pentatonic idea here is this one where he has this little nice bend at the end and another fast little lick. It sounds like this. Okay, so how do we apply something like this? So we really have to figure out what's going on here. And by itself, it doesn't seem like much is going on here. But from studying a bunch of other George Benson solos, this is a shape on the guitar that Benson uses actually a lot. And he'll change little things about the notes that make it work over different chords. So for this example, he has that little bend into that, right? But what's really similar about this, we're playing this, I would think about this in like a D flat minor pentatonic position. And I'm thinking about this really just like areas on the guitar, sort of groups of notes. Again, not really in the scale saying he's using up and down that D flat minor pentatonic scale, but it's just a way of giving us that framework that these that the vocabulary fits within. So he's starting on this F flat or E natural, and then bending up to get into that flat 7 of D flat 7. The lick that Benson uses that's very similar to this sounds like this. It's one he does on Stella by Starlight, a bunch of different examples, but it's this. So we have that 8th note, and then we have that 16th note triplet. But instead of F and triplet like that, where those are notes all in D flat 7, the 3rd, the root, the flat 7, and the 5th of D flat 7, we start on that E natural, that sharp 9, which gives us like a bluesier sound, and he doesn't go all the way down. He doesn't go. He kind of goes back. He could have gone down, or maybe he does, and I just need to hear it better. And then jumps back up. Instead of repeating that pattern, he does that jump to get to that flat 7. So that's a cool variation. And what you can do with this is visualize this D flat 7 here, or any dominant 7, and start on that 3rd. And the picking pattern here is really important. It's down, down, up, up. So that down, that's longer, lets you reset your pick really quickly. So down, reset, down, up, down. Sorry, down, reset, down, up, up. And you can either kind of turn your pick or sort of rotate your wrist to help with that up, up, up. You really want to get like a smack of the pick and give it some attitude. And again, I'm sliding into that F. You've heard Benson do that a million times. You want to get it where it's very comfortable. It's a very comfortable lick to play fast, and you can move it around in many different ways. All right, now let's talk about the arpeggio ideas. And so this first one, we discussed it a little bit in the video I did commenting on Beato's video on this solo, and that is this F minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio over D flat 7. So how would we make use of this? Because this is a really massive lick, right? Massive arpeggio. First thing is I would take away that slide. So just get something that starts in the position of the chord we're visualizing. It's really important to visualize some sort of chord around the idea that you're working on, building into your vocab. Okay, so we're on this D flat 13, and we're starting on the F. And you see how that fits right? It even has that same B natural right within that chord. Then we slide up here, and that one, that's getting up to that E flat, which I still see as part of that D flat 13. So everything's right here. And that's really helpful because if I want to play this on B flat 13, I'm not really thinking about it. I know where I'm going to end up. I know some of the notes I have to pass through. It allows me not to think about what are the notes in D minor 7 flat 5 or what's the minor 7 flat 5 I have to do. If you're doing that when improvising, you're dead in the water. You want to really have these shapes internalized. It does help to analyze them and think about them in the practice room, but you want to make sure you're not traveling with that knowledge to the performance. You want to have internalized it so much that you know it without needing to think about the notes. And so that's what helps us do that, right? When we connect the idea to the chord shape. The last thing I'll say about these kind of arpeggios and building these licks into your vocabulary is that you want to have ways of leading into those lines and also leading out, right? So if we have that same pattern, maybe we do it with the slide. Benson ends on that A flat, right? What are some other things we could do? Right? So you have to think, okay, from here, what are other ways I could get out of this, right? I'm not going to give the answers for you on this one as much as you might want to. That's what you need to work out when you're doing these licks. I could give you a bunch of licks for it, but I'll let you figure that out. And let's talk about another arpeggio that Benson uses on D flat 7 that sounds like this. So for this lick, Benson is using a B major 7 arpeggio. You could also think about it as that pentatonic-plus-one. It's like A flat minor pentatonic, but adding in the ninth here. You can add different things to it, but what I really like about this is it's a nice way to slide in. So if we're on this kind of A flat minor shape, especially if it's going to D flat, you get this nice D flat 13. So it's a great, nice melodic idea that you can work in a ton of ways. All right, now let's get into some of the more advanced bebop ideas, starting with this one that Benson does sort of within some of the longer lines that he plays. So the reason I selected this one, besides it sounding great, is that it's seemingly a very difficult one to work into our playing. So I wanted to show you how you can take a lick that's difficult, that crosses a big span on the frets, and actually work it so that you can actually use it. That's really important here. And so first, let's just see what notes we're playing. Okay, so we have this. This whole part at the beginning is leading us to the B. One thing you can do, especially when you're, have a ton of frets in that lick, is change the position. And when you do this, you have to be careful. You want to make sure it's still playable, because there might have been a very good reason, there probably was a very good reason why Benson was playing it in that way. But sometimes when you're improvising, you're just jumping up to certain notes, and you're not necessarily playing it in the most perfect way. So let's see. We have that jump E flat to B flat. So maybe we can move that around. One way we can move that around, if we switch positions and it doesn't work, is changing the octave of that phrase. So let's actually switch this down an octave, and we'll go back into our A flat minor pentatonic position down here. So starting on E flat and going down to B flat. Well, I can do it here. And that actually fits great. And it fits Benson's picking as well, so then I know I'm good. Fits over that A flat minor or D flat 7. So let's hear that phrase, and then we'll kind of break down what's going on within that phrase. A few ways you can think about this in relation to the A flat minor or the D flat 7. I like to think about that whole first part of the phrase as just leading us to the note B, which is the flat 7 of D flat 7 or the third of A flat minor. Again, you can use this phrase on a bunch of different chords. I've done other Benson lessons related to that I'll link. After that, we have this sort of pivot arpeggio. It's sort of a variation on that where we jump down, right? And it's giving us this jump of the sixth. Anytime you're jumping down a sixth as an interval, then you know it's some version of a pivot arpeggio. And it comes right back. Right, so just kind of walking down A flat minor. Da, da, da. Benson does this little like hammer on pull off thing, which is really common. So you can do that as well. Let me give you another little tip here. When we have that kind of vocab, what we should also be doing is connecting it to the other vocab we've been learning. So let me play over this, and I'll link it to one of the other phrases we already learned. So I'm connecting that idea with the other idea we had that also starts on A flat. And as you internalize these different pieces of vocabulary, then you can start to line them up, and they'll start to link naturally. You might have to add some other notes in between, some other essential jazz patterns to connect them, but the bigger phrases and ideas will start to connect on their own. All right, and lastly, I want to address this chromatic bebop idea, which is a really, really cool one, over D flat 7. That sounds like this. Okay, so this one, over D flat 7, we're starting on this G, E type of thing. The reason I picked this one is because it's not important that he's starting on G. What is important is that we're ending up on this B flat. That is the target note that Benson's trying to get to. Whether he's thinking about it as the 13th of D flat or the 9th of A flat minor, whatever. He's hearing that note and he's trying to get there. When he's getting there, he's using one of these devices, and down, up, picking for all of this. So two notes in a row, like 1, 2, again, 1, 2. Now we're gonna do 4 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a triplet, still 1, 2, 3, 4. So all leading to that last note. So again, we start on that upbeat, 1. Make sure you get the ba-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. So the way I would think about this lick, let's actually separate that beginning of it because it's starting us out of position, and just work on the part that is 4 notes per string. And if we look at this, we're in the same sort of shape as the A flat minor, but a fret lower. So if you're playing over a minor pentatonic, say A flat minor pentatonic type of position, we're not here in A flat minor. We're actually 1 fret lower. And that's what allows him, I just went into the other lick that we had. It allows him to kind of create some tension by being a little bit off from the A flat minor and then slide back into A flat minor. It's a really common technique of being a half step away from the minor pentatonic that would fit the chord. So the takeaway here is when you're playing that kind of idea, and now Benson will also do it in the same position as well, but to create a little bit more tension, just go a fret lower from where you are. So A flat minor. Right, you can just kind of slide from that B flat to B, because both of those notes would fit over A flat minor. That's kind of the takeaway from this. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that lesson. I have a bunch of George Benson lessons in the past, and I probably will do a George Benson sort of master study, breaking down a bunch of his techniques and ideas and concepts. I have them all in different places, so if you guys want to see that, then I will do some sort of live event where I will break down a bunch of his different solos and all the things I've really learned from George Benson. Let me know in the comments if I get enough comments. I don't know, let's say 20 to 50 comments saying that you guys want that kind of thing. I will do it. I'll do it live. I'll do it on YouTube, and we'll have a good time. So let me know in the comments. I'll see you guys there. I gotta keep it down because Ramona has been sleeping at my feet.